Well, coming here, it's almost like another planet.
This is God's country. It's beautiful.
There's very few places left in the world where you can find untouched wilderness that we have here. Everyone considers Manitoba to be a prairie province. A lot of people overlook the fact that we are on the edge of the Arctic. We have tundra, we have, the edge of the tree line. We've got such sensitive environment up in the northern areas that to be able to take a glass and drink from clean water from a lake, that alone is something that everyone should experience, because unfortunately so many of our waterways are tainted. I don't know where else you could go to be in an environment like this.
We decided to try someplace new that was known for both fishing and hunting. So we chose this one, made the choice about 11 months ago.
And one day at work, I read an article in a magazine about here. And I sent for a brochure and I got a video, and I had to come.
Spent many hours planning, strategizing, fantasizing about this place.
And my wife and I went all over Canada looking for a lodge, and we knew this was it because of the pristine location, and it's one of the last true wilderness lodges left in Canada. It is now a provincial park, which we're very proud of, and will be protected for generations. My grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all the staff that work here. All the input from them has made this one of the most incredible fishing, hunting adventures in Canada.
Pretty big, really big. Yeah. Let them scrape on the bottom, put your rod out. Let them scrape on the bottom.
And that's one reason why I want to come up here, because it's so beautiful and so remote. And you get to see how beautiful the world is, You look over here and you see the river coming into that lake, and it's just so cool. I can never take enough pictures of it, so. And like it's fall right now and the colors are just amazing. So just kind of thank God that you get a chance to experience it. So it's pretty neat.
The ice candling in the spring sounds like the biggest cocktail party in the world. It's watching the caribou when they come on strong. It's wandering on an esker and coming across a huge moose, hearing the wolves howl. It's one of the last wild and woolly places. And the people, we seem to attract a certain type.
The main part of it is spending time with my father. This is almost as close to heaven as you can get for me. I live and breathe everything that has to do in the outdoors. I'd take living out in a cabin in the wilderness any day of the week over living in the hustle and bustle of the city.
It's reminiscent of days gone by when life was a lot simpler, when everything you needed was available right off the land. And it's just that nostalgia of it all, and to think back of all the history and the people who've come and gone through this area and the times that they would have spent. I feel privileged to come up here and be a small part of it all.
I think you look back at your ancestors and the people who inhabited this country initially and wonder how in the world did they survive in this environment, and you have to have respect for them. We're having a little taste of that, but nothing like Rayford Johnson living in this area for 43 years with himself and his dogs.
You're so thankful that there's parts of the world like this that you can just come to, and very few people have been here, and where you're walking, no one's probably ever walked before. Where you're fishing, very few people ever fished before.
This was beyond my wildest dreams. It has a special place in my soul that draws me back. There will never be anything in my life probably quite like the thrill of that first trip coming here.
But they've got all these other lakes that you can fly out to. And I like the idea of landing on a piece of water that maybe it's been fished once or twice in 20 years and never before that, unless it was some, native that had fished there in a canoe or something. But I guess everybody wants to feel like they're an explorer, that, oh, this is something I'm exploring. Well, you are. You really are.
People are definitely drawn by a spirit of adventure here. It's not your typical lodge vacation. It's more akin to an expedition. So much of this country has never been walked, and so much of this lake, just the lake itself, has never been fished.
Since I was a kid, I always romanticized about those guys who are out on the tundra, out in the wilderness, catching big fish and hunting and such. I love the wide open spaces. I work in town, but my heart is here.
I think what most everybody wants to feel is that they can get back close to nature and be part of it and really feel that day-to-day things in terms of your modern life don't make any difference really. What really makes a difference is just respecting the earth and what's here and living off it. And that's really what we're doing.
Not everybody can appreciate being isolated and being in the wilderness. A lot of people have become accustomed to the modern amenities, and to step away from that just becomes too stressful. And for a lot of people, to step away from that is where they can actually relax. Well, quite often we lose ourselves in the rat race, and a lot of people aren't aware of who they are as people anymore until they actually spend time alone with themselves. When you get out into an area like this, if you do have the opportunity to do it on your own, you really become a lot more aware of your own characteristics, your strengths, your weaknesses, and I think everybody should do it once in a while just to get in touch with themselves.
Yeah, when you get off the plane, it's almost like you can feel the worries go away and your shoulders can relax a little bit and the weight of that world comes off.
The work that I do compared to this is vastly different. And I forget about the surgical patients and I forget about the people in the hospital and all that stuff. I think it re-energizes you to come up here.
What's nice about this is your phone doesn't work. There's no newspapers, there's no media, you don't have all that bombardment of what's going on around you.
I like to be away from the bombardment of electronic media all the time. Out here where you could just kind of be with yourself, with your thoughts. There just is very, very little that clutters up your life out here. This is a place where you can truly get away from all your concerns.
I've had wives and secretaries phone me and thank me for sending their husband or boss back with a different perspective.
I don't know, I think about how many times during a year that I get stressed out, and it makes me calm and peaceful to think about this place, to think that one of these days I'll be back here and I can just look towards that sometimes, and it helps me deal with life. And I think it's because somehow within all of us we just want some inner peace, and it's hard to get. It's harder and harder in today's life, and I think we're getting it up here, and we have a chance to rediscover that and maybe take that back with us.
And for 15 minutes held onto the rod, and we had to follow the fish around the lake, and not once did I feel like I was able to lift him up off the bottom. He hit as soon as the lure hit the bottom, and he just took off sideways in a weed bed. And after 15 minutes you look up in the water And there were weeds floating everywhere because he was just cutting the grass off at the bottom. And not once did I get him up off the bottom. Finally, he broke my lure and got away. That was my fish story.
One of the biggest features of this lake being Canada's original catch and release lake. The people who've fished here 25 years ago and let those fish swim away know that they'll be there to catch again today.
Nobody really understands, but fish are somewhat like people. There's a genetic strain, meaning you could have a fish that's 5-pound fish that is 100 years old, or you could have a fish that's 60 pounds and is 100 years old. And if you remove that genetic strain from the lake, then you get a standard smaller fish. A lot of lakes, the trophy strain has been decimated. That's not happening on Nueltin. Our fishery is good or better than it was when I came here 25 years ago.
This is a good one. I'm a conservationist, and when you can let them go back, you say, well, that's for somebody else, and hopefully that'll help them spawn, and the bigger fish will make bigger fish, and everybody can enjoy it. So actually, I'm very happy to let them go.
It hit, we got it in. Right on.
You're using the best fishing techniques that are the safest for the fish. And you're releasing them back in for the next person to come back and find them. You're only keeping what you eat for lunch, and that's very conservative. So you have to experience it, and you go back then as a better person to be able to defend what they're doing and then to fight for the conservation, the further conservation of it, so that people can come up and continue to enjoy it for years to come.
George got us into an unbelievable area of not more than 5 to 10 acres in size, where we caught multiple northern, 9 of them being trophies. The smallest one was 41.5 inches. So it was a blast.
9 trophy northerns in one day. I don't know whether that set an international record or what it was, but it was really exciting and fun, and so we'll always remember that.
I'm a traditional Indian. I'm Dene. My language is Dene.
Our guides, Denny and Cree, they're in touch with the land. They connect our clients with the outdoors. And you're in really good hands with the First Nation people that guide for us. They're incredible people.
There's no class difference, if you will. You know, it's just the two of you. And when you're out here on this great big lake, you trust your life to these guys. You know, it's not the other way around. You cannot write a check and get your way out of here. You depend on them.
Probably the thing I enjoyed the most was the guide and his ability to help you do the things that you didn't know you had to do when you got here. And he drug out of me what I didn't think I had in me. From climbing eskers, walking for miles, boating for hours, starting before daylight, finishing after dark. I have a heart condition, and I said, I don't know that I can make 14 hours a day. And the guide paced the day so that I could make the day. I never slept harder or longer or never slept through an alarm in my life. I found out that in there's something special if you really look for it.
I'm not saying it's dangerous up here, but I mean, when you do stuff like take off in float planes and land on the water, and you're in open boats and you fish around rivers and streams come in, there's whirlpools, and you go to places that you haven't been to. It gives you a chance to maybe find out that there's something inside you that you didn't realize was there. And I think that you don't get tested that way in the city, and you do out here.
I failed to ask enough questions when I asked what a moose hunt was. I thought it was like a fishing adventure where you go out at 8 o'clock and come home at 5 o'clock.
An adventure can be defined in a lot of different ways, but up here you have to be ready for the elements if they're going to come at you or not. It could be sunny and 50 and the next day snowing and 30, and I think you have to have that sense of adventure to be willing to go with the flow, relax, and just what'll be. But I've definitely learned that there's a lot I can do, and the human spirit in general can take a lot. I mean, just yesterday was not my finest hour by any means. You just have to know that you're stronger than you think you are.
I spent 7 days with my father. Every day we wake up, it's beautiful. To be able to share it with him and connect, I got to know him better. We never argued with each other, we never got on each other. We had a great time. We'll remember it forever. We got to take a 12-mile walk through the woods the other day, something that not most people will get to do. Sat up and watched the northern lights, which we've never seen before, and we got to experience that together.
You're out with each other in the boat all day or back in the cabin. You have a chance to talk about things in an unhurried manner that you might not talk about at home. And you just, by being together closely like that for that period of time, I think it forms just a special bond that will be with you for your entire life. A popular song, Harry Chapin's Cats in the Cradle, where the father and son, they spend their entire lives talking about how they're going to have a good time, but neither one of them will ever make the effort to find time to actually do that. And this is a way each of you makes the time commitment to come and spend that time with each other. And then that paves the way for you to continue to do that with each other for the rest of your life. And I would hope that my sons will be able to do that with their children when all else is said and done. When you come home at the end of the day, it is your relationship with your family that makes you feel warm inside and let you sleep good at night.
I've always been my dad's buddy, but now I'm his fishing buddy, and I will be forever. It's great. Some of my best memories with him are up here. It's just him and I, and now he's kind enough to bring my husband with so we can make those family memories together. We've come up with my mom a few times, and for me it's being able to spend the time with him. We're relaxing and having fun and enjoying each other's company for who we are, not necessarily what we're doing back at home.
My buddy's got cancer, and he came up here with his dad to have a chance to spend some time up here together alone, and that to see those two guys together and under those circumstances, and the pure joy was him to be together and what time there was left. I think that was pretty meaningful.
The first time I stepped off the plane and I have this feeling of deja vu. Just about everybody gets that feeling, but even some of our clients, but I think there's a reason to be here.
This is almost as close to heaven as you can get for me.
It will be a memory for us to share for the rest of our lives. It's something you will never take away.
I'll take back the memories of the times we had together here, not only with the folks I traveled with, the people I met.
And there's nothing about this season that I'll ever forget. This experience in general will stick with me for the rest of my life.
I cannot give one message, but I can give a lot of them. It gives my brother and I an opportunity to be together. Even with all the excitement of fishing and all we're doing, this primitive area, it just gives you a feeling of how God works. It's just a great feeling just right in your heart.
It's the dream trip, it's the bucket list trip.
it's touching a dream that they need.